Welcome, everybody, to episode 185 of WordPress Weekly for Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. I'm your host, Jeff Chandler, joined by Marcus Couch. Marcus, what's up, man?
Hey, Laguna Beach is very nice this time of year. Happy to be on another episode here with another great guest, and we're going to learn all about Pagely and WordPress managed hosting and all kinds of new stuff.
Yeah, before we get into our interview tonight with our special guest, I want to do a shout-out to Nathan Driver and all of the volunteers that helped put on WordCamp Dayton, Ohio. I was there last weekend. Fantastic event. There's about 150 people there, and it was interesting because I was part of a panel that talked about this thing called imposter syndrome, first thing in the morning, and it was amazing just how many people A, didn't know about it, and B, when we started talking about it, realized that they too go through the same symptoms and a lot of the things that we're talking about as individuals. So it was really cool to really open up a lot of people's eyes to that imposter syndrome is a real thing. So that was really cool, and just the event itself went along very smoothly, especially the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi worked great. So I just a shout out to those guys. Great job on conducting yet another smooth running WordCamp. Pretty cool.
What kind of sessions stood out in your mind?
Obviously, the WordPress REST API sessions, the WP security sessions, all of those were standing/sitting room only. Which, by the way, if anyone out there is listening, if you're organizing a WordCamp, please, please, please put the REST API sessions or any security sessions you have in the largest room. You'll thank me, and I think your attendees will thank me as well. Those things are insanely popular for whatever reason. I don't know if it's hype or if it's general. I don't know what it is, but those sessions are really, really high in demand right now.
Well, we're all trying to learn about it. We're all trying to stake our claim for when it finally makes its appearance. So why not be an early adopter? Why not figure it all out? Why not put it through its paces and try and figure out what WordPress is going to look like with the total REST API? And I think that's the draw.
Yeah, I think maybe everyone is finally understanding the hype that the REST API is like the next big thing for WordPress, the next sort of glorious age of WordPress if WordPress needed one. So evidently it's very popular out there. But you know who I want to learn about? I want to learn about this individual and his company. Can you take a guess who that is?
Bill, no, don't know. Stump me.
Well, it's actually our guest tonight. His name is Joshua Strebel. He's a late 30s husband, so still a young chap. He's a father of two small boys, two wonderful small boys, I might add, and the CEO of Pagely. And Josh, man, you popped your cherry. Thanks a lot for coming on the show tonight.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. It only took 250-something episodes.
Whoa, hold on there, buddy. We're only at 185 here.
Oh. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So you are based in Arizona, correct?
Yeah, I lived in Phoenix for about 10 years, and around Christmas of this year, we moved down to Tucson.
Okay, awesome. So it's great to finally have you on the show. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is, first thing, let me congratulate you. Speaking of congratulating people on conferences, I want to congratulate you on yet another stellar Pressnomics. This was the first time I had a chance to attend the event. I think it's in its third year running. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the event was great. The vibe was great. Everybody was just sort of wanting to help each other out. And as I understand it, I think you've got plans to sort of take this thing international.
Yeah, we're thinking about it. I'm glad it lived up to the hype for you. We put a lot of planning and effort into it. It's about a 6-month process from start to finish. And it went off really well. We were really happy with it. I think it was certainly the best one yet. And, the benefit is we got to donate $10,000 to Cure Search to help kids facing cancer and to help look for a cure for that. So that was important to us to be able to do that. And, we thought maybe why starve the rest of the world of this awesome thing called Pressnomics? So we're considering, loosely, kind of up in the air, maybe in the summer of 2016, doing it in Europe.
Nice.
Awesome. It's about time they got a Pressnomics. I bet they love you, or they take you in with open arms.
Yeah, we'll see. Or either that, or they'll say something nasty about my American accent.
One of the coolest things I thought about Pressnomics was that at the very beginning, you and your wife were on stage, your two boys were on stage, and to me, it was one of the only WordPress events where the whole family, the organizing committee, the whole family's on stage, and it's like, hey, let's all have a good time. You're welcome in our home, but hey, let's just all have a good time. And it felt like it was really cool. This unique feeling of sort of, hey, you're inviting like 200, 300 people into your home, but let's just have a good time here and learn a lot and share and help each other out. So that was really one of the cool, unique vibes I really enjoyed at Pressnomics.
Well, thank you. We tried to make everybody feel welcome.
So I understand you run this company called Pagely, which I have a Pagely's hoodie, by the way, courtesy of Pressnomics, but my wife pronounces it Pagely. Now I don't understand how she beats me, but she calls it Pagely. I have to correct her all the time. It's Pagely.
Yeah, like a page, a web page.
Right. So you're the CEO of Pagely. Tell us a little bit about this company.
Well, we do high availability, high scale managed WordPress hosting. So we've sort of let's see, I'm stumbling over my own pitch because I don't know how far back I want to go, but essentially we make it a lot easier for big brands and enterprise to run WordPress at scale.
And when we talk about at scale, we're talking about massive, large, thousands of concurrent user type sites?
Yep. When we started back in the day, we were kind of focused on more of the general market, the consumer market. And about 6-8 months ago, we kind of turned and decided to really look at the power user and the people that really are kind of struggling getting WordPress to bend to their will. And with our switch to Amazon, we were able to kind of back up our expertise now with great hardware, and so we really kind of dove head first into serving that client that runs that massive e-commerce shop that, their weekly sale has got 5,000 concurrent users on, easy digital downloads or something, and so that's going to stress the server a little bit, or the media property that's breaking some story that, is getting deluged all day long because of kind of the boomerang effect of social media. So that's really where we've been focusing and having a lot of fun lately, is serving that kind of client that not just needs but absolutely demands, the performance and the uptime and the reliability that we can deliver.
Now, when you say switched or moved to Amazon, does that mean, do you own any hardware, any equipment that's colo or in a data center, or do you strictly run everything that the customer needs through Amazon now?
Yeah, it's all on Amazon. We've been doing this about 6 years, and we've never owned a server. Everything's been in the cloud or other providers. Way back in the day, we were at the Planet, and then just leasing their server. I guess it was technically a hardware box, but we never saw it. And then we moved to Firehost, and we had a good relationship with them, and that grew us through our second phase. And then July of 14, we announced that we had moved to Amazon, but we actually started that in about September of 13.
And as I understand it, you and your crack team had to work really hard to get everything moved over to Amazon, and actually the move went over very well. Not a lot of people really noticed any downtime.
Yeah, that was I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I'll go ahead and do it. That was a lot of planning and strategy and execution, and I put it all at the feet of our new CTO, Josh Eichhorn, who did an amazing job with that. We moved thousands of clients and terabytes of files and migrated databases and switched over IPs and did all that over the series of weeks and months. And the only thing that people noticed was, oh, wow, my site's faster. Awesome, thank you.
All that for just that, yeah. Tweeted for one day, and that's all the appreciation the community gave. So some have credited you actually with kind of coming up with the whole concept of managed hosting. So, I mean, how far back does managed hosting for WordPress go back for you personally? You said back in the day. How far back does that go?
Well, the prototype, which became Pagely, was actually developed in the summer of 2006.
Wow.
We had this idea that we could automate the install of WordPress, which wasn't necessarily novel because I think at the time Fantastico and there were some other one-click installers. But then we took it a step further and said, okay, now after the install, what about updates? What about plugins? What about performance tuning? What about security? And so we kind of put all these things together and said, we want to take the customer from I want WordPress to logging into the dashboard and having it run well and be optimized and ready to do what they need to do. We wanted to compress that down to the smallest amount of time possible, kind of shorten that learning curve. And so in 2006, in the September of 2006, we actually launched the product, and it was at the time it was called Flare 9,
Mm-hmm.
and it went okay. We got about 50 or 60 customers, and this is pre-Twitter. This is pre-Facebook. Facebook was still kind of locked down to universities at the time. So we really didn't have a marketing budget. We really didn't know how to market. We really weren't quite sure what this thing was yet. It was still so new. And, we kind of just let it go for a year, and then we actually turned it off. And then a year later, in early 2009, we realized, oh, wow, all those customers are still paying their monthly bill. They're still enjoying the benefit. WordPress has grown up a lot in the last 2.5 years. Maybe there's still something here. So we refactored all the code, rebranded it Pagely, and launched it again in September 2009. So it was funny, and back when I first started this in 2006, I emailed a young kid named Matt Mullenweg, and I said, hey, look at this cool thing I did with your product. I mean, look, it's all like one-click this and all this stuff, and look, we're speeding it up here, and we even developed a precursor to kind of the child themes concept. We're like, look, there's these pre-installed themes that are based on a master, and he never emailed me back.
Oh man.
Ouch.
Oh, missed
Still looking for
opportunity.
that. Darn.
I'm still a little crushed over that.
So you've had no interaction with Matt even since then?
Oh, of course I have.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, it was just funny that I was all excited and he's like, whatever.
Or maybe he got lost in the millions of emails he gets. Fan mail.
Well, I'm not one to point fingers, but I sent him that email, and like 2 months later, .com VIP launched. So I don't know. Maybe somebody gave me an idea.
Oh man, don't tell me you're also the grandfather of WordPress.com VIP. You're a busy man back in the day.
I hope I meant that in jest.
Right. In fact, way back when you first started, I was looking at some of the. Basically, you had everything running off of one server, and you used no firewalls, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, well, we had some software stuff in place to try to limit what we knew at the time, but it wasn't until like version 2, version 3 down the road that we really jumped on kind of the security mindset. And we'd love to say we've never ever had malware or ever had a hacked site. I mean, it does happen occasionally. But I would say in ratio to the number of sites we have, or in proportion to the number of sites competitors have, our infection rate is so low it's uncanny. Because we've really stressed that from early on that was going to be a core part of our value proposition.
And so do you restrict a lot of plugins that people can use within the service just to narrow that down as far as what's allowed and what's not, or is it just a matter of strict security and sweeping in those matters?
We limit plugins, but not so much from a security perspective, more from a performance or it replicates features we already have perspective. But when it comes to security type things, like the recent Yoast issue, or there was another one before that. I can't remember what it was.
Probably Rev Slider.
Yo, Rev Slider. That was a fun one. So we are proactively pushing plugin updates on our system. We're doing about 20 to 25,000 plugin updates a month now. We've been doing this for years. So when we get an alert, sometimes we learn about it when everybody else learns about it through the public channels. But a lot of times we get a back channel heads up from other stakeholders in the community that this is something we need to be aware of. And so we're already proactively patching that plugin across our entire system, or we're writing a custom firewall rule or something for that plugin before it gets patched. Well, whatever we can do to mitigate the damage that may, or the fallout that may come from that exploit. So we do limit some plugins, but they're more on a performance basis versus a security basis.
And when you say you automatically upgrade plugins, is this even though people may have configured that to be turned off, or they've done no configuration whatsoever? Is it just more of that's something a customer should expect? That's what they're paying for?
Exactly. Yeah. Same with core updates. We're going to push them, and you're going to get new plugin updates. And there's obviously been, a handful, maybe I can count them on two hands, of people that are like, turn that off. What are you doing? Don't touch my stuff. But we're pretty clear about it up front, and people, that's what they're buying. They're buying that kind of assurance that it's a set it and forget it. But the good thing is we don't just run a script and update the plugin and walk away. We've been doing this long enough that when we push a core update or when we push a plugin update, we're sending out our crawler to go back in and look for 500s, look for white screens. We hash the page before we update it and after we update it, and if anything changed, like maybe a content box that was powered by a plugin disappeared, it's going to change the hash on the page. So we're going to know, something isn't the same as when we started, so let's roll that back, and then let's investigate it, and let's take a look at it.
And throughout the wider ecosystem as a whole, have you been known to, hey, there's definitely an issue with this plugin, but we can fix it, push the update to our customers, and let's send this upstream to the plugin author? Have you done that before?
Oh yeah, Next Gen Gallery. I think it was almost a year ago. They pushed an update that was creating a loop that was saving the rewrite rules. It was generating and saving the rewrite rules over and over and over and over again. And so it was blowing up the databases on all these sites that were using it. Just a whole lot of reads and a whole lot of writes, and it was just a real mess. And so we proactively figured that out 3 or 4 days ahead, of our competition, who 3 or 4 days later was like, does anybody else notice this? We had already patched it, already fixed it, and already committed. Well, we couldn't commit, but we already notified the author upstream, hey, here's your issue, here's what you need to fix. And he elected at that time to just actually revert the entire version back, if you remember that.
Yeah, I think I even wrote about that. That might have been the big 2.0 update, which caused grief to very many websites.
Yeah, it's a shame because from a host perspective, our job, we want to make sure that the customer is always taken care of. But there's other stakeholders. There's all these plugin authors and all these theme authors, and other services like Cloudflare, whatever. And if any one of them have an issue or a syntax error in their code or something, we take that as our job to fix. We don't ever point the finger back and say, well, that guy messed up. We're going to fix it the best to our abilities for our client, and then try to help the guy who perhaps had the code correct his error and then update his stuff later.
And a lot of that goes on behind the scenes. Most of us probably don't even know about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of back channel, which is a good thing, I think. Some of it is orchestrated directly by the core team. Some of it's orchestrated, actually comes out of automatic. But it's kind of like just that, hey, heads up. And if you read the CCs on the email list, you'll see that there's other people that need to know these things as well, and so we can all kind of start taking action before maybe a public announcement or something.
Probably a good example of that. Were you notified ahead of time with the big jetpack vulnerability last year?
We were, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we were able to take necessary action.
And see, these are the kinds of things that when people have asked me about hosting and why should I go with managed hosting, period, these are the things. It's the development teams behind the scenes that are paying attention to the community and paying attention to the back channels. And then you've got people trying to make things more secure, people trying to make things faster continually. And that's the huge advantage, I think, that managed hosting provides over non-managed, or even sometimes dealing with the dedicated server and such on your own. As a developer, it's a lot easier to just hand that duty off of most of the IT and the hard work and all that stuff, and just worry about a WordPress site actually functioning the way you need it designed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the non-managed hosts are in any way deficient from they want to help perspective, because I'm sure they do. They get notified too. But it's strictly a infrastructure thing, and that for the trade-off of managed hosting, you trade off maybe a little bit of access. Like maybe we can't give you SSH access on a $24 plan. But what we can do is have top-down control of your website at all times to be able to, in real time, patch a zero-day exploit. Whereas in a non-managed host, maybe you're only paying $3, and maybe the host wants to help you, but you know what? They don't even have the tools to get in to help you. You're kind of on your own.
Awesome. So you've taken Pagely and you've grown it from this idea of making your clients' lives easier, and it's grown into this one of the top tier managed WordPress hosting companies out there. And I read today that another managed WordPress hosting company gained yet another round of funding. Now, has everything you've done up to this point been all out of pocket type cash, or have you accepted any VC throughout the years to power and expand Pagely?
We've never taken a dime of funding. We feel like so this is a philosophical thing, and I don't want to necessarily tear down anybody who chooses to take funding, because it's certainly a legitimate means to an end. But for us, Sally and I, we felt like in order to deliver to our customers the type of experience and the type of attention and the type of value that we wanted to deliver, we had to do that on our terms. And what I mean by that is, as soon as you take a round of funding, you're basically inviting somebody else into the decision-making process. You're inviting somebody else into the boardroom to dictate what you charge, how you charge, who you charge, if you charge for X, if you charge for Y, where you cut costs, how you look for efficiencies, what your support metrics look like, whether your support agents have to generate revenue or not. These are all decisions that are now either shared with other people or completely out of your hands if you sell too much of your company. Your board takes over and you have no say anymore. And so for us, it was really important. We knew the trade-off. We're going to grow slower. We're going to grow organically. We're not going to be able to sponsor 100 WordCamps a year. We're not going to be on TechCrunch because we took funding. But in trade for those trade-offs, we're going to be able to build the company the way we feel like it needs to be built. And we're going to be able to serve our customers the way we feel like they need to be served. And, it's in the eye of the beholder, but I think we do the best job in serving our customer with the value proposition that we bring to the table. Everybody has their ups and downs. We had our down period where perhaps things weren't working as effectively as we wanted to. But over the last year, I think you've seen that we've rebounded from that, and we're off and running and got the wind at our backs. And the community's certainly taken notice of that. And are responding to this kind of independent, we're going to take care of you, we're not going to charge you an overage fee, or we're not going to do this dumb thing or that dumb thing, because we want you to, get the value and feel good about doing business with us, because we're people and you're people. So funding is perfectly legitimate, but it seems like those other guys keep running out of money because they keep getting more funding.
And I don't know much of anything about the business aspect, but yeah, when I see the same company go, oh, there's another round of funding, it's like, well, when are they going to start paying those people back instead of taking more money? What? Something's got to give there.
Well, it kind of locks you in. And another reason is we look at it like this. Today, Pagely has every door open to it. Every option is available to us. We could sell the company. We could take investment. We could keep running the company. We could keep growing the company. We could sell part of the company. We could do a strategic partnership with somebody. Every single option is open to us. Once you take a big chunk of money the first time, your destiny is now locked to keep taking money and keep taking money until you grow it to such a size that it either implodes under its own weight, which sometimes happens, or somebody else comes along and gives you a whole bunch more money and buys it from you, or you IPO. Like, those are like your 2 or 3 only options at that point. You're kind of locked into a single track. Like, here's the rocket fuel. This thing's going to the moon. It's not going to Mars. It's not going to Jupiter. It's going to the moon, and hell damn it, we're going to get there or we're going to blow up. And
does that change the speed of your decisions within the company because of the fact that you don't have this bureaucratic board and such that you have to kind of get things through to make happen?
I would think so, but it also may slow down the implementation of our decisions because maybe we don't have the same resources that somebody with $10 million in the bank has, if that makes sense. Yeah. So we can decide to do something quicker, and we can pivot or make a decision or add a new feature quicker. But actually implementing that, it may take us 3 months of development time with our team, where somebody else could put 30 guys on it and have it done in 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So there are trade-offs.
Well, you mentioned that. So what's the size of the team at Pagely, both in the development end and the support end? What kind of staff are you packing there?
Well, we're more than 1 and less than 50.
Okay.
I've heard him answer this question before like that. Do you have any thoughts or opinions on GoDaddy and their IPO, possibly giving them seeking a valuation of much as $2.87 billion? I mean, do you have any thoughts or opinions on that?
Okay, so GoDaddy is a Phoenix company. And I've been here in Arizona for 10 years. GoDaddy's been here for 10 years. So I've watched GoDaddy go from next to nothing to, a $2.8 billion valuation. And I've seen the stupid commercials and all that. But then I've also kind of seen new management come in and, try to make some changes. Now that is a huge fucking ship, right? That's like a oil tanker. The biggest thing on the sea. And if you want to turn that thing right, or if you want to turn it left, you needed to start 8 miles back, right? Because it's going to take you 8 nautical miles to make that left-hand turn. So I think they have a lot of inertia working against them, but then they have a lot of assets and creativity working for them. So I think they're going to be able to do some big and kind of awesome and amazing things in the WordPress space. It's going to take them a little while to get there, but I guess it seems promising. As far as the IPO, all I can say is that if you understand the finance of the deal, and if you look at the press release that they put out, they're doing an IPO to basically pay back their private equity firm that bought the big chunk a few years ago. And if you know anything about private equity, and I don't know a ton, but essentially they do a leveraged buyout, then they make the company take on debt, and then they push for an IPO to get the rest of their money out. So the private equity firm's making a ton of money. Is it a good thing for the company? Who knows?
Excellent. So, a long, long time ago, back in the day, before you're back in the day, I got involved with a group of people thinking we could just whip up a web hosting company to help host websites for gamers, for clans that we were involved with and that we knew. So, hey, what do? We go to eBay and we purchase a reseller account for like $32 a month, and we start slapping people's domains on there, and we're using Plesk and all kinds of other things, Modern Bill. Well, needless to say, that company didn't last too long, and I learned a lot of lessons along the way, especially that web hosting is hard. But I've seen you refer to web hosting as sort of being the easy part. So to you, what's the most difficult part of managing or running Pagely? Is it the technical aspects? Is it the business side? Is it the people side? Which one is it?
You know, if I said the hosting part is easy, I think that there's some context around that, in that the technical recipe to make WordPress fast and to make WordPress secure, that the 10 things that go into that, it's pretty straightforward. And so maybe by that I meant easy. But doing it well at scale for thousands of customers is really hard, because you always have the one customer or the 10 customers that want something you don't have, or you're going to always have those customers that you just let down despite your best efforts. Either there was a missed expectation there, or you just dropped the ball, which happens once in a while. And so for me, I think the hardest part about running this business is getting a angry customer, somebody who's just pissed off, because that, it's a personal thing for me, and business shouldn't necessarily, you got to detach yourself and things like that. But we've always ran this company as basically like we run Pressnomics. Welcome to our home. We're going to take good care of you. If there's ever a problem, please let me know. And sometimes it's hard to hear when there's a problem. So, dealing with that kind of emotional aspect of, hey, I'm really sorry, Bob, that this didn't work out. I really apologize. What can we do to make it better? Fuck you. I hate you. I'm out of here. No, come on, Bob.
Bob.
Maybe I can. What can we do, Bob? It was just an issue. No, F you. I'm gonna go to Twitter and I'm gonna just tell all these people that you're a jerk. Come on, Bob. What did I ever do to you? That's not a nice thing to do. And so it's like, it seems so petty and personal.
I could just imagine all of our listeners out there shaking their head like, yeah, I think I know that, Bob.
It sounds really minuscule, but it still bothers Sally and I to this day, because we want to serve every single customer as best as we possibly can. And I think the second hardest thing about running a hosting company is the competition, because they will outspend you, they will say different things about you, they will buy better affiliates than you, their affiliates will say bad things about you. The average customer is trying to compare one host to another, but they really are having a hard time doing that, because it kind of looks like apples to apples, but it's not. So, educating the customer what they're actually buying and setting proper expectations, that's been challenging, I think.
And on top of that, it's really, really hard for a potential customer to find good information, good, reliable, accurate information on particular web hosting companies, because of the affiliate programs so many of them run. There's so many websites just pounding out information because they're attached to a high-dollar affiliation program that it's sort of, like I said, made it really difficult to find the good information, a good recommendation system.
Well, I agree, and I have had a philosophical allergy to affiliate programs my entire life, because I'm like, that's not the best company for Y or X. Why the hell are you referring them? Oh, you asshole, it's because you're making more money. Okay. Well, you're doing a disservice to your customers, so therefore you have no integrity, so therefore I hate you. And you see that a lot, because, while, sure, every company, no matter what you do, whether it's hosting or themes or plugins or whatever, every company has some value. It's gonna help some level of customers. But to go out there and say it's the best because you're getting paid $500, I'm sorry, but is HostGator really the best? Really? Come on. You can't say that with a straight face.
I mean, just from my perspective, I've gone to many affiliate summit conventions and those types of things, and it's the hosting companies that are throwing the hippest parties. It's Hulk Hogan's fly-by-night hosting thing that he did that's already defunct.
Hostomania, brother!
Where Hulk Hogan was on the expo floor taking pictures and giving autographs to everyone. So, I mean, it's easy to be,
Yeah.
seduced by all these hosting companies when they're offering such huge bounties just to get a customer.
Well, last year I wrote a $11,000 referral check for one referral. So I'm not opposed to spending money if you send us business. I will pay you a lot of money if you send us business. But our affiliate program has all of like maybe 60 people in it, and every single one of them is hand picked and hand reviewed by me, because I know that they're referring us because they either they use us, or they have used us, or maybe they're not in the space anymore. But I know that they're putting their brand and their trust behind us because they feel we're the best option, not just because we may pay them the best. Because they've used other companies. A lot of these guys used other companies and then came to us. And so we've just really not gotten behind the affiliate thing. We use it very sparingly for very select affiliates who follow our disclosure policy. They got to disclose it's an affiliate. They got to disclose if they're a customer, if they've actually used the damn product. And we just kind of look for that level of integrity, because what happened to Corey, right? I think you wrote about it, or a competitor WordPress news site wrote about it, that he was a big affiliate for HostGator, and then HostGator banned Backup Buddy and threw him under the bus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's just an awesome way to treat one of your affiliates. Well, guess what? They don't give a fuck, because there's 1,000 more just like you sending them gobs of business.
Now speaking of integrity, that's one of the things you've mentioned that word several times, and I've actually seen this integrity in action in the public sphere. A few years ago, several large-scale web hosting companies, managed and unmanaged, suffered outages during the year. And one of the things you came out against, railed against, is that these hosting companies, some of them were, would you want to call it sniping or poaching, saying, hey, now's a good time to switch, and we'll give you a discount for switching. And I liked how, A, you don't participate in that, and B, you called some people out on that.
Yeah, that's the lowest of the low, right? I mean, that's like ambulance chasing. That's why lawyers get a bad rap. If a guy's having a bad day, you don't kick sand in his face. You let him pick himself up. You maybe even offer to help him up, and then you go kick his ass toe to toe, man to man. You don't do it when he's down with a black eye. And it's just such a shame that so many of these companies play that game. And I think that instance you mentioned, it was when GoDaddy's DNS took out like half the freaking internet, right? And Namecheap, and I think this is before Media Temple bought them, and Media Temple and HostGator, and all these people are like, is your website down? Did your host knock out your website? Well, switch to us. We'll pay you this. And I'm like, hey, idiots, it's going to happen to you next week.
Which it probably did.
Yeah.
I like you as a person because you're just like me in many ways, where you're like a WYSIWYG, which Corey Miller famously called me on the show, and I love that title, where what you see is what you get, and you tell it like it is. You give people the real deal. And I'm wondering, as a CEO in your position of a company that's a high-value company, it's a top-tier company in the managed WordPress hosting space, do you shy away? I mean, obviously from what I've seen, you don't back away still, even though your position at the company. But has it gotten you into trouble? Has it made you lose a client, or do you get feedback from customers or from people that say, yeah, it's about time we finally have someone that says it like it is?
Well, I think we could all agree that sometimes speaking your mind is the wrong thing to do at the wrong time. Like it's gonna lose you something, whether it's a client or respect or rapport or something, right? So I think there's certainly been times in my career where maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. And there's certainly times today where I self-censor a little bit. Maybe I wouldn't say, I think of something and I write out the tweet, but I delete it. Or maybe there's some WP drama going on that I look at and I'm like, ooh, I got a zinger, but I'll just, But I just, so yes, in my capacity, I do self-censor a little bit and keep my mouth shut, because I think, I grew up not having a filter between my brain and my mouth. I said whatever the hell I was going to say, and I think I learned enough over time that maybe I could slow down a little bit. And then also looking forward, like where do I want Paisley to be in 10 years or 5 years or whatever. Maybe I need to not burn any bridges or say any necessarily inappropriate things today that may cost me a part of that future down the road. So I tend to be a little bit more conservative in what I say and things like that. But on a topic that somebody asked me directly or that we're talking about, yeah, I would hope that you would expect for me to tell you exactly how I feel on it, or else why would you ask the question?
If you like Terminator, don't bullshit me.
Yeah.
You know?
In a public space, maybe that's a good time to keep your mouth shut, or maybe in a cliquey group, maybe it's a good time not to say something, So you just got to use a little discretion, I think.
Back channel for the win.
Yeah, there you go.
Most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're doing really well right now. Just out of curiosity, what would 2015 Josh Strebel, what would you tell 2006, 2008 Josh Strebel, who was really just getting involved with Pagely? I mean, is there any advice you give your earlier self that you've learned that you thought, boy, I wish I would have known this back then and would have made this so much easier?
Yeah.
I know there's probably a lot, but really anything in particular?
Two things. One, I would have hired a technical genius sooner. My CTO now, he's amazing. And funny is I worked with him in 2006. He actually built a prototype for me. But then he went on to San Francisco and did all that, and then I hired him back. But I would have got him back sooner, is what I'm saying, because while I knew enough to be dangerous, it wasn't until I think and I had some help, but it wasn't until I hired that guy who knew PHP front to back, who was the vice president of the Pair open source project, who made a career out of just being an awesome PHP engineer. It wasn't until I hired that guy that I think our company really turned the corner. So I would have done that sooner. And two, it actually goes back to what we were just talking about. I think I made some enemies early on in the community. I use that in quotes. In other words.
No, I won't confirm this.
Right. I mean,
there was I can say that I really got involved in the WordPress space and writing about things and listening and hearing things back in 2006, 2007, and there was a time where, hey man, a lot of people considered you an a-hole and really didn't want to have anything to do with you.
Right. So I think that's the younger, brasher, maybe not quite as self-censoring me got in my own way a little bit, right? And I also put some of the fault on them. Fuck those guys, if they want to hate me because I said something they didn't want to hear, or I called them out for stupid behavior or something. It was probably stupid, and you should have been called out for it. But I take it as my responsibility that maybe I should have said some things differently or handled some things differently. So it slowed down my growth a little bit, and kept the company from, I think, growing at the pace it should have grown, because I was maybe it built some enemies back in the day. My 3-year-old is dying to say goodnight real quick.
Awesome. So, well, Marcus, there goes. I think one of the bombs we haven't had dropped on the show since we've done it is the F-bomb, and well, we've taken care of that about 3 or 4 times now already on this episode.
Touche.
Yeah, touche.
F-bomb followed by a child goodbye.
That is.
He just wanted to say tell Daddy goodnight. That's awesome.
That's quite the combination. So we'll wrap it up here. I got one more question for you before we wrap it up here. And looking at the grand scheme of things, how would you, what role do you think Pagely plays in, let's say, the adoption rate of WordPress overall? I mean, what type of, is there any sort of responsibility that Pagely has to the WordPress ecosystem as a whole, or is there no connection there?
I think there is, and I'm going to say one as a joke and one that I actually mean, right? The one as a joke is, since we invented Managed WordPress, we are kind of responsible for driving the entire Managed WordPress ecosystem, which has made WordPress better for everybody, right? So I'll take a little credit for that. But what I really would say is that there's resistance. When you go into an enterprise company, 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people, employees, and they're a publicly traded company, and there's all this bureaucracy, and there's IT departments, and there's all these things, right? It's just a behemoth of a company. And say they've been using .NET or some proprietary CMS. And then marketing comes along and says, you know what, we want to do a new blog for this product launch or this new site, and we want to use WordPress because we use WordPress on a personal level, and it's a great tool, and we want to use it here at the corporate level. And so what happens? Marketing says, new website to do XYZ powered by WordPress, and then it gets handed off to IT. And then IT says, fuck you, I ain't touching WordPress, right? We're a .NET shop, or we do everything in Rails, or WordPress is insecure, or all the litany of crap you hear about WordPress. It doesn't scale, etc., etc. So then marketing comes to us, says, we want to do this, you guys look like a good fit, but you have to convince our IT team. And that, I take that as a challenge, a personal challenge, because I'm going to go in there and talk about WordPress, and talk about how WordPress can be fast, and talk about how WordPress can be secure, and talk about how actually, Mr. IT department, we're taking care of everything, so you really don't have anything to worry about. And by the way, we're this compliant and that compliant, and we've got this security measure and this and that, and we got you, right? We're here to make your job easier, IT department. And they say, okay, fine, and they agree to it and they sign off on it, but they're holding their breath and they're crossing their fingers. And then we onboard that client. And so we have to work with their IT department, their engineering department, to bring over files and open VPN firewalls and things like that so they can access. And a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks later, that head of IT comes back and says, wow, WordPress rocks. WordPress rules. I didn't know it was so easy. I didn't know it could be so fast. I didn't know it could be so secure. Had I known this, I would have recommended the whole company use this years ago, right? So I take that as like a personal evangelist role to take that banner into these big corporations and say, everything you know about WordPress is wrong, and I'm here to tell you how it can work, and you're going to trust us, and we're going to trust you, and it's going to be this great, happy relationship. And I can tell you that 99.9999% out of 100 times, that's exactly what it ends up to be. So I kind of feel like that's our role now. Like, I don't think the community needs Pagely to help spread the word at a WordCamp right now. I don't think Pagely can really do anything to get the blogger or the real estate agent or the mommy blogger, what have you, using WordPress, because that's handled. There's people way better doing that than me. But I think our team is really, really skilled, as our numbers have shown and our growth has shown, is getting these big legacy, enterprise level customers to adopt this sick program called WordPress.
Well, whatever it is that you're doing, it's working, because nearly 50% of your revenue is now driven by your VPS and enterprise tier.
Oh yeah, it's working, and we're having a lot of fun.
And speaking of WordPress at scale, you guys published an excellent post about how Pagely is scaling, how Pagely is doing quite well, and your revenue has doubled within the past 3 quarters. You guys are now you're overseeing 20,000 plus plugin updates per month. You're up to over 30 plus billion HTTP requests, and now you've managed over 1.25 billion files. So that's a big scale.
Yeah, there's lots of bits and bytes there, and we handle every single bit and byte with the love and tenderness of a father. We actually care, and I think that's kind of cool.
So that's great growth, but the important part is, and something that a lot of companies suffer from, is managing that growth. How have you been able to manage that growth and keep the support expectations really high and the service availability really high? How have you managed to balance that out?
All right, so this is going to sound a little esoteric, but it's because I think we didn't take funding. So that leads to us growing at a manageable organic pace. Like there's I certainly feel like I'm behind the curve sometimes, and I could always be hiring somebody sooner than I did to kind of keep up. But when you have $5 million dropped in your lap, there's an expectation that you're going to spend that money, and you're going to spend it fast, and you're going to get 10x your current customer rate, and you're going to hire people off the street to fill support roles. You're just going to do everything you can to grow. Grow, 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 grow. That's all anybody cares about once you take a big chunk of money. Well, we never have, so we don't have that pressure, right? I can turn off signups if I want. I can say, you know what, we're just not going to onboard anybody this week because we feel like we have a deficiency that we need to correct before we can serve our next customer better. So while we're growing at a good pace and we're having a lot of fun, it's at a manageable pace so that I can hire 2 or 3 guys a month and keep up with growth and feel like we're in a good spot. I didn't spend $1,000 or $100,000 on marketing and got 10,000 new customers I have to figure out how to serve. So it's a blessing and a curse. We grow a little slower, but we grow slower at a rate that we can sustain and keep up the quality of service because to us, that's the most important.
So, Marcus, do you have any this is Final Jeopardy. Do you have any final questions for Josh before we wrap it up here?
How do it sounds obviously in your lifestyle and in your company, you have that family adaptation more so than community, more family. But how do you how do you keep the family together? How do you keep everybody on the same vision and the same mindset when it comes to the growth of the company like that?
Well, so I hire people that I don't need to necessarily manage. I hire people that buy into the vision, see what we're doing, and can kind of take ownership of their part. So we have a team call every Monday because we're all remote. We don't work out of an office. We're all remote. And I have a team call on Monday. It lasts about 35 minutes that I lead. And after that, there's hip chat, so there is communication. But I've hired people that I trust to do what they need to do and run it. And so that really, what I'm trying to say is when you hire people to do their job, you should let them do their job, and hopefully you're hiring the right person that can handle that responsibility. And so we don't have layers of management. We don't have timesheets or anything stupid like that. We just expect people, and they rise to that expectation, to do what needs to be done, and they do it exceptionally well every day, day in and day out. And I'd like to say they get compensated pretty well for it. We're not hiring level 1 guys. We're hiring level 3, level 4, experienced engineers to work with our clients. And if you look back kind of at the tweet stream, you're going to see that people rave about the technical chops and the support they get because we're hiring people that can actually solve their problem on the first ticket, not have to escalate 4 times.
So we've been talking a lot about enterprise clients, big, huge clients, but actually Pagely has plans for just someone who has a large-scale site, or maybe who's someone who just wants everything to be taken care of for them on their WordPress site. And I think plans start as low as $24 a month, correct?
Yeah, but I got to break it to you. We're probably going to start phasing out those lower-end plans by probably sometime around summer.
Is that just purely based on the way it's going, the increase you're seeing in the enterprise and VPS clients, and of course probably higher revenue from those?
Well, it's where we want to focus, where we feel like we can have the biggest impact. If you look at companies like SiteGround, they're amazing. I mean, I got nothing but awesome things to think about SiteGround, and they are serving that kind of low to middle market exceptionally well, right? And so how do I compete with a $24 plan on Pagely with a $13 or $14 plan on SiteGround that probably has more features and more this and more that, and I can't, right? Because they're just doing a really good job at kind of doing that. I don't want to say low cost, but kind of that middle to lower market. And so as a small team, and without a bunch of money in the bank. We need to focus on where we can be most expensive, have the most impact, and most importantly, bring the most value. And we can bring the most value onboarding large-scale clients, working with them to solve their problems, and then building a long-term relationship that, yes, results in higher margins and higher profit for us, because we can't compete. We can't have 30,000 $5 a month customers. It'll kill us. But other companies can and do a good job at that. So we would rather have fewer customers that are a deeper relationship as we go forward.
That's a great answer. So Marcus, I think that's going to do it for our interview with Josh. Unless you have any lasting questions here.
No, I thank you very much. And like any other service out there, there's I wouldn't say a luxury aspect, but definitely a 5-star touch. And I know that Pagely is run to be that type of service, from the technical aspect to the getting in communication with the community and finding problems before they become problems. So I appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Marcus. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for having me.
I follow a lot of people on Twitter, like 300 or something like that, but most of them are influential. And as Josh, from just my perspective, Pagely was sort of a host that was always there, but then it was sort of on the side, but still doing things. I knew things were going on because you emailed me of the things that were going on. But then you had this complete redesign of the website, and you started this sort of campaign called Turn the Page with Pagely, which is a neat concept. And the new redesign is awesome. But then you started to get clients like Pippin and Chris Lemma, who, their word is like gold in the WordPress community. I mean, that they're influential based on what I've seen in the WordPress community. And when you've got those types of people speaking praises for your service, it really sort of put Pagely back in center stage, in the spotlight again. At least that's what I've seen.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to earn those recommendations. And when I say earn, we earn it. And because those people aren't just endorsing people for the sake of endorsing people. They're doing it because we solved a real problem, and we're earning that endorsement every single day. And I'm fortunate for that opportunity. And if they're listening, I thank them. And they have my personal cell phone number if the need arises. And so we really go out of the way to help them as we would help any customer. And it's been a fun ride.
Awesome. So I just want to say congratulations. It's great to see you've turned this just idea of making your clients' lives easier into really a top-tier, 5-star class web hosting company. And I wish you all the best. And let our fans and listeners out there know. Well, first of all, you can visit the website pagely.com. It used to be page.ly. Thank goodness you have pagely.com now. And then let us know how we can keep in touch with you, how we can follow your ranty rants, if you have any on Twitter.
Oh, my ranty rants are at Strebel, and I blog every 4 or 5 months on something interesting at saint-rebel.com.
So a good rebel. This is kind of a balance there. Well, Josh, thank you very much for spending some of your time on here, and I can't wait to have you on in the future to talk more about web hosting and maybe just technology and WordPress in general.
Thanks, Jeff. You're doing a good thing with WP Tavern. Keep it up, man.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. So that's going to wrap it up here for our interview with Josh and Marcus. Like you said, it's one of those top-tier, really high-class web hosting companies, and it's just great to hear a story from someone who initially had an idea, and now it's like the bee's knees in the WordPress managed hosting scene.
Well, that's because he never sacrificed integrity, and you heard him say integrity throughout the interview many different times. And his integrity is what keeps Pagely a private thing and not necessarily in the hands of an IPO or bought up by some other monstrous host company or things like that. So it's like going to that favorite 5-star restaurant local to you that has been in business forever. Well, there's a reason for that, is because they take care of their customers. So it's a good interview and a good behind-the-scenes look at Pagely.
So as far as news of the week is concerned, I'll tell you this story, but I really don't want to. I'm sort of out of breath, man. That was a hardcore interview. So the Pod's lead developer, Scott Kingsley Clark, he's launched a Friends of Pods funding campaign. So what it is, it's a campaign to earn recurring revenue. It's sort of run like public broadcast television, where you have different tiers and different membership levels, to where you can give a certain amount, and then for those who donate $25 a month or more are eligible to choose rewards. You can choose a reward every 6 months, and based on the tier that you've donated, the amount, you get more choices of rewards. So it's just one of these ideas where they're going to try and earn additional funding to work on website and plugin development and add additional features to the plugin while allowing it to be free. Scott has really done everything he can now, I think, at this point, to not charge for pods. So I hope this model works. It's an experiment. I don't think we've seen any model like it in the WordPress community. And if it happens to work, maybe it'll open the door for other plugin authors as an option to earn recurring revenue, but maintain a free price on their plugin.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake. It's too gimmicky. It needs
Oh,
to
yeah,
be.
really?
I think so. Just because, look, go the Triple J route. Just say, look, this is what we need. This is what I want to do, and this takes some funding to do it. People got to get paid.
The problem is Scott's already done the crowdfunding campaign. He asked for $1,500. He ended up with $4,000, 41, close to $4,200. I mean, what are you asking him to, like, every time he needs money to just do another crowdfunding campaign for $5 more grand?
Well, if you're displaying results, wouldn't that be relatively simple?
Well, I suppose.
I think that would grow. The more consistent you are with your results, the more that funding would keep blooming and snowballing.
Or do you think he should just outright charge for pods and get it over with?
Charge for add-ons, like everybody else is doing.
Oh, keep pods free, but create a marketplace around pods, which there already seems to be a lot of plugins and products that tie into pods. So maybe that would work.
Why not? And he gets a kick of the licensing or whatever for developers version where they can tie right into that, or make an APIs of some sort, or I don't know. It just seems like the bottom of the barrel. I know it's not that. I hope it's not that desperate, but
well, geez, I guess you're not a friend of pods then.
Maybe not in that sense. No, I mean, I don't need my name put in a brick anywhere. But, it just makes me a little queasy hearing in this news.
And one of the other articles I wanted to mention is that HeroPress, which we've talked about a few times on a few other episodes of WordPress Weekly. They've published their first essay. So even though Topher DeRoja, who is the main person behind the HeroPress project, he initially created a crowdfunding campaign he was asking for $60,000. He really only got $20,000, but he ended up canceling the campaign. But because of all the feedback he received and the positive enthusiasm, he decided to move forward with the project. And now today they published their first essay, which is called "Finding Your Place" by Andrei Shavinko. I hope I got that right, but he goes by the name of Rarst on Twitter, and I found it to be an inspiring essay. Basically, who he is, what he's done, it's filled with peaks and valleys, and really has some sage, sound advice, and sort of finding his place in the WordPress ecosystem. So I think if that's sort of an indication of what's to come from HeroPress, I think the WordPress community is going to get a treat. We're in for a treat. So just great stuff, and I can't wait to see the next few essays that are published over there on HeroPress.
Yeah, I'd like to see some more public declarations out of HeroPress, exactly what it is that they're planning on doing and by when, so they can remain accountable. That'd be great.
Well, right now they have no. Well, what do you mean by accountable? Because they ended up getting zero money. So now they're just going a different route.
I got it, but I mean, if you want to start disclosing plans and making manifestos, then let's see what your plans are, and maybe the community will jump behind you again.
Oh, okay. I suppose. Now, of course, one of the things on the HeroPress.com website that I would like to see is a link up at the top that says mission or mission statement. I think that would, you click on that, and then you sort of get a taste and feel for what HeroPress is all about, and sort of maybe the plan, the plan in place to implement what HeroPress is all about. Is that something that you're looking for?
Of course. I mean, the best people that are in our community are the people that are the storytellers and talk about what it is that they plan on doing and how they're going to do it and remain true and have integrity and all of that stuff. And we've seen the imposters out there come and go with their scams and, magazines and whatever they've all tried to do. And it'd be refreshing to just kind of follow the journey with somebody and still yet have technology that comes out of it as well.
So everybody check that out. I'll link to that in the show notes, HeroPress.com. But just want to say congrats on Topher for moving forward with it and pressing on with HeroPress. Get it? Pun intended.
Yes.
So with that, boy, I'm almost out of breath. I got to get in shape for this show. Marcus, why don't you let's wrap this thing up, please, and give us your plugin picks of the week, which includes one for a version of WordPress that hasn't even been released yet, for God's sake.
Ooh, how fresh of plugin reviews do we get here on this show? The first one is called Plugins Speed Test. Now, this one is really cool because in the plugins list, after you install this plugin, after it runs for a few times and gets some specs, you can actually see by the individual plugin on the plugins list what their speed is, affecting the home page, affecting a post, a page, those kinds of metrics. And you can really see what down to the individual plugin is slowing down your site. So it's a pretty cool brand new plugin that allows you to take a look at all that stuff behind the scenes in the admin view. And the next one, Jeff, I believe this is what you're referring to. Disable emojis. That's right. In the forthcoming WordPress 4.2, it will add the emoji functionality. Well, this plugin will just snip that right off and disable it. Sorry.
Geez, when you describe a plugin, don't make it sound physically painful. Snip that right off, man. Jeez, make me cringe.
Well, some parts don't belong in there, and I think emojis is one of them.
Okay, all right.
And finally, this is a question that I get asked all the time to find a plugin for. And this one is called Auto Post FB Comment, FB standing for Facebook. And this plugin will insert a Facebook comment into your WordPress database when users comment on either your post or your page that you set up ahead of time. Now that's very important because prior to this plugin, a lot of these things relied on iframes of comments or API pulls that came from Facebook. This actually injects it right into your database, which then you can display within your theme any way that you want to, which I thought was really cool. So that one's called Auto Post FB Comment.
So so when you're using Facebook comments, would you have to use this plugin in addition to that so that the plugin or the comment just doesn't go to Facebook, it goes into your database as well? Is that what it's doing?
Yes, and so you don't have to use any other kinds of Facebook commenting plugins for this. It doesn't take away their functionality. You can still use them if you wish, but you don't have to. So the difference between some of those and this is just in the way that they're pulling it in. So this goes straight into your database, which is then cached into your site and displays on the fly, whereas the other one might be just an external call out to Facebook, some of those other ones. And so this is the first one that I've seen that does it straight to the database. Okay, awesome. We'll have all those linked up in the show notes. So, boy, that was a hell of a show. We set a record count there for F-bombs. I'm nice. pretty sure some building out there is gone because of the show. But it was great to have Josh on and just somebody's not allowed to listen to WordPress Weekly at work anymore.
Just
sorry.
Just a really cool guy. Yeah, I feel
Put your
sorry for the
box,
people
pack
who
your
are,
things.
put it on max volume and go, oh, and get weird looks. But anyways, that's the way it goes. Marcus, now next week is April Fool's Day, but we're not
Yes.
going to play any tricks. We will be here. We will do a show. In fact, our guest is someone sort of outside of the WordPress space. So who is he, Marcus?
It's Lewis Howes, and he's definitely a WordPress user, and he does a lot of different properties and has a lot of different books and things that he's written. But he's got a nice podcast called The School of Greatness, which is where he interviews some of the greats, Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss and Jack Canfield and all that. So I thought it would be I thought it would be interesting to bring Lewis on board, not only from a guy who creates content and manipulates content through WordPress and other means of email and all of that, social and podcasting, but more of the lifestyle and trying to get out of a rut and trying to launch a new project. And time and time again we bring on people that are CEOs and managers and VPs of different companies, and they talk about having to get into that mindset first so that they could succeed and break those bad habits and things. And so I thought it would be appropriate to bring Lewis on, and he's got a really nice audience of his own, and maybe they'll be WordPress users too someday. Who knows? But stay tuned next week or next episode. We definitely have a cool show in store with Lewis Howes.
Well, I can't wait for that. And then the week after that, we're going to have Bob Dunn on, WordPress trainer and coach. I'm really looking forward to that episode because he's got firsthand knowledge of some of the pain points and struggles new users have with WordPress because he works with them every day. So that'll be a great learning experience for the show. But you can find this week's episode and show notes on WPTavern.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Rowe, Jeff Rowe, JEFFR0 on Twitter, and Marcus.
You can find me at my website, marcuscouch.com, and at onlinebizcoach.com, and on Twitter at marcuscouch.
Sweet. So everybody have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday evening. Until then, stay safe.